Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. We get lots of questions for Peter asking what his settings were on his camera or what lens he is using. So we thought we would go through and take some shots with different settings and different lenses, and hopefully by the end of this video you will see what Peter means by the subject is the most important thing.
So I'm in my office with my budgies and my dogs, and I just want to try and explain to you what are the important things in camera settings and what aren't the important things. And I'm not talking about as the photographer, I'm talking about what you think you want to know what his settings were because you like that picture. So sometimes it's quite obvious that you can see what sort of lenses might have been used and apertures and so forth. So between these two pictures, you'll see definitely there's less background in the picture. So obviously this is a wider lens. Definitely we can see more detail. So obviously it's a higher f-stop. But when it comes to the ISO or the shutter speed, neither of these pictures are telling you this. So you're only learning about the f-stop and the lens. And to give you an example, this was shot on a 35mm at f9.5. This was shot on a 75mm at f3.4. Then we can come to these two pictures. And again, it's pretty obvious that one is different to the other, the depth of field for a start. So I start with this one. This was on a 50mm at f4, and this was on a 50mm at f9.5. So I've stepped back a little bit because you can see the extra headroom, but again, the ISO or shutter really doesn't make a big difference. Maybe if my shutter speed was faster, this was 320 of a second, so that little bit of blurry hair bit in the air would have been the only thing that would have been changed if I was a thousandth of a second or something. ISO, the only thing that would change is if it brought more noise in. So pretty much looking at a picture should be able to tell the most important things. But then we get to these two pictures, and to most people they look fairly similar. People think it's shot on the same camera, same lens and all of those things. So this picture here was taken on my Hasselblad H6D 50C. It was shot with a 300mm lens at f8 and 160th of a second, also 100 ISO. This picture here was taken on my Mamiya RB67 on a 127mm lens on Portra 400 film, shot at f8 at 125th of the second. Looking at these two pictures, you're not going to see that big a difference between the two cameras, but this is where I'm going at. There's a lot of people think it is important to know what the camera settings were and what the lens were, but in certain situations, it's not the camera or the lens that made the shot. So I'm going to head down to the studio and do some example shots for you, then head back up here and we'll go through them. Okay, I just got a pretty simple little setup, just an Octabox sitting up here, and out of shot, just a little balance board coming up. It's one of my safest sort of mid-body setups. And I'm just going to get some shots that I can talk through to you once I get back in the office. So you got a weird lumpy bit on your hair. If I don't do this now, Beck will just hate all the pictures. We fixed it. Cool, that's really cool. Nice, I like that, that's really pretty. I'm trying to work out if, oh, the lumpy bit inside looks all right. In real life, it doesn't. No, it's fine. In real life, it doesn't, because you can see white through it, but in the picture, no, a bun. Cool, cool. No, it's hard to describe. On my live view, all we can see is the white gaps in your hair, but in the shot, you don't see the white gaps. So I'm basically just trying to get what I'd call a hero shot. I want something that I'm liking the eyes, something like that. Those two are pretty nice. I just might snap a couple more so I can do a nice comparison with this. That's really pretty. Cool. You don't mind the little one hair across your face? That's better, cool. I liked it, but...
Oh, so did I.
Oh, well, I said you don't mind.
That sounded like you did.
No, I didn't want to take a picture and go, yuck, why didn't you tell me? Not that you would ever do. That's cool. You got it back again. Cool. Cool. That's really pretty. See, I love shooting my Hasselblad on with Studio, but the one thing I wish it had was this focus peaking, because I would never ever use autofocus again. So if I don't have a strong enough catch light, I can't get the focus that I want. So I tend to use the true focus a bit in Studio with the Hasselblad. But just this focus peaking on these are pretty. Yeah, these are really pretty. So I reckon I've got it, so I can head back to the office now and I'll finish this up.
So while Peter's mucking around at the computer, I thought I would rudely interrupt to remind you guys that we are coming to the States this fall to run our USA workshops for 2025. We'll be there in September and October, going to New York, Miami, Dallas, Vegas, and LA, covering natural light, studio light, posing and working with models, plus a whole heap more. We would absolutely love to see you there. So for all the information and the exact dates, I will leave a link down in the description below. Okay, back to work.
So I've culled it down to my favourite pictures from each scenario, and I'll just click these through, and every now and then you'll see a slight difference, but is the difference big enough to say that you need to know what the lens was or what the settings of the camera were to take these pictures? So at the end of the day, if you have the model looking good, and you've got nice lighting, your lens and camera settings aren't as important as everybody thinks so. So now I'm going to reveal what these actually were. Now, sometimes on Lightroom, it doesn't see the Leica stuff properly. So I'll just, if they've got the wrong numbers in there, I'll tell you what they were. To start off, this is all the detail up here of what this was. It was a Hasselblad camera, that's why it's FFF. It will show 160 to the second, f8 at 100 ISO on an 80mm lens on the Hasselblad. So both of these two were shot on the same. First one's just a touch soft, that's my fault. Then we come to the next. Now we're onto a 100mm lens on the Hasselblad. All the other settings are exactly the same. So swapping from the 80 to 100 really makes no difference. So the small lens changes, you're really not going to see much at all. Then we've swapped to a big difference. We're on 100mm, we've come down to 2.8 at a 400th of a second, still at 100 ISO. Now, the reason I went 400 a second, I wanted to kill the ambient light, which was filling the background. But you'll see again, now clicking through, the only difference is we've got a blurry background. That's the only difference this lens has done to this picture. Then as we come along, now this was my 50mm on my Hasselblad, and this is at 3.5. So just flicking through all my Hasselblad shots, except for the shallow depth of field in the 100mm at 2.8, they're still feeling that that's really not making this picture a picture that people are going to go, oh, wow. That little bit of blurry background here, some people love it. Some people like the more texture in the background. I like more texture in the hair. It's a little bit less texture in the hair, the shallow depth of field. So moving on, now we're on the Leica on 50mm, and we're shooting, I'm certain this wasn't 1.7, I'm pretty certain this was 1.4. And we changed the ISO to 200. And again, see how we're at 3.5 on a 50, we're at 1.4 on a 50. There's a little bit of softening. And this is where I'm coming down to. We're now on 100mm at f8. I hope this is making sense to you, what I'm doing. I have changed lenses a fair bit, cameras, and my settings. This definitely wasn't shot at f16. These were shot at f8. That's just, again, is what Lightroom does to some of my lenses. But you'll see this is jumping from a 100mm to a 75. And we're jumping from a 50mm to a 100mm. If I just click through these again, you'll see that the whole thing about your settings, on some situations where you've got a long background behind and you want to blur it all out because it's ugly, but in a lot of situations where you've got a wall fairly close behind, your settings do not really make the picture. It's actually the photographer working with the lighting and the model. What I say to most people, just remember the most important thing in your photograph is the subject. The second most important thing in the photograph is the lighting. The least important thing in the photograph is your gear or your settings.
So we hope you enjoyed that and that was useful for you. If you want to check out some more of our stuff, I will put some related videos on the screen now.